Now, just last month, Joseph Kony offered to surrender, and that, of course, is what we will be discussing tonight on Newsnight with Andrew Mwenda. Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight with Andrew Mwenda. Andrew, many thanks for joining us.
Old man of the clan.
All right. Researcher, journalist, and of course, CEO of yes, really, CEO of the Independent magazine
in the world.
That's an ad again, Andrew. But let's move into matters of Kony. I know that
It's not an ad, it's a fact.
through when you were actually at the Monitor, you covered the LRA conflict.
And had the opportunity to speak to Joseph Kony
and Vincent Oti,
rather Vincent Oti.
Yes.
They used also to talk to Sam Kolo.
Yes. You had your feet on the ground and you actually understood matters pertaining to the conflict in northern Uganda then. But things have moved on. Fast forward, Kony was pushed into Congo and then Central African Republic. The latest reports we have is that he's actually offered to surrender. Do you actually believe that?
It would depend on circumstances, because the secular rebels in Central African Republic, who
Yes.
are his allies. I should tell you, my brother Kayanja was the commander of Ugandan forces in Congo and the Central African Republic.
Yes. So
So
you have first-hand information.
Yes.
Yes.
Before he went to Somalia, now he's the commander of the military police.
Yes.
He told me if Kony moved onto the government of Moses, onto Bangui, he would capture power. So UPDF is the one that used to prop the government there. And when UPDF pulled out, of course, the secular rebels came with to overthrow the president. Joseph Kony has no interest in surrendering. So under what conditions would Joseph Kony surrender? Let me put it this way. Why wouldn't he surrender? Joseph Kony has an army. He has a series of women. He can have as much sex as he wants. He's enjoying himself as a big warlord controlling a territory. In fact, one time host told me when they attacked him in Ngaramba, they found the man had gardens larger than UPDF gardens. Planting maize, he had a large-scale agriculture. His organizational capabilities are superior to organizational capabilities of honorable movement. So that is one.
Yes.
So if you are Kony, he's well off, and I think that certain international forces, including Khartoum, may keep him in play if only to serve their purpose. But what the secular rebels are saying is that he's very ill. If you are Kony, you are ill, you cannot get first world medical attention from the bush there. And if you want to prolong your life, it is better to surrender to the ICC, because if you are taken to Netherlands, he will at least get an apartment. His wife could be able to visit him. I remember he will now be a suspect in prison. Wherever he will be, he will get the first world medical attention. And I am therefore suspicious that if it is true that Mr. Joseph Kony is very sick, he may surrender himself to the ICC if only to save his life. If the only way to save his life is by him surrendering. If he's not sick, there is no incentive for Kony to surrender.
But he's asked for just one small thing, to secure his security and safeguard him, of course, from the ICC. I think that's the only thing he asked. That means he's not interested in going to the ICC. I
personally, I should tell you, in 2004, President Yoweri Museveni called me and William Pike to State House on a Sunday. And was to tell us that he was going to open negotiations with Joseph Kony, and there was this ICC issue. I asked him, I said, Mr. President, one, my own experience with how you have ended rebellion in Uganda previously is you have fought enemies at the battlefield and defeated them there, but you have never announced a victory. Instead, you have called them into what you call peace talks, which you really are surrender talks, negotiated with them, and the result of this negotiation was to integrate their political leaders, their leaders into your cabinet and the government, their soldiers into your army, and then some others would be paid like those of Bamuze. They would pay them money and they resorted them into villages. You clearly realize that building a nation and uniting a country, ensuring that there is social integration, requires hard-nosed bargains and compromises that an outside force may not appreciate. How would anybody appreciate you? At that time, government of Uganda had issued even an amnesty in 2001. There was an amnesty for Joseph Kony and all his LRA fighters. So the bottom line is this, and I said this thing of taking Kony to the LRA may undermine the process of internal political accommodation, a search for an internal peace. Because Kony now may feel he's an international outlaw and he continues fighting. And the president told me, no, under the Rome Statute, he had been advised by Francis Ayume, who was Attorney General, you can take a case to ICC and anytime you want to withdraw, you can withdraw it. It turns out, as you can see the Kenyan case, that once you refer a case to ICC,
you can't withdraw
it, which means Ayume had misadvised Museveni. So the bottom line is this. For me, Kony should not be taken to the ICC. Government of Uganda through the peace they had negotiated with Konyi, should put in place something called motoput in Acholi, and have a traditional justice mechanism like Gacaca courts in Rwanda, whereby the crimes of the LRA are dealt with by the local community which was most affected, and therefore the principle is that we must be able to try to forge a future rather than begin punishing a contested past. 2, we must be able to put the idea of political reconciliation above the pursuit of criminal justice.
Let's discuss this. Many actually would suggest that he is a man who's cornered. I mean, he has $500 million over his head set up by the U.S. government.
I think it's $50 million.
But I think 50, is it 50? I think it's
Like
$5 million. He also is a man who is wanted with the U.S. about 100 troops on the ground helping, that is facilitating the search for Konyi. But just recently, the Pentagon did request the Senate and Congress to allow them actually participate in an operation to hunt down Konyi. And so he is a man that is actually under threat. And he clearly, unless he surrenders, he'll actually die in the bush.
But Morris, don't you find it funny and in fact embarrassing that President Yoweri Museveni and the government of Uganda went to invite Americans to come and fight Konyi here? Don't you find it embarrassing? Why should Uganda's wars be fought by Americans? We have UPDF, we pay taxes, they have a large budget of $500 million. Why do they need American support? I can understand if they said that we need American satellites to help us in the air. But
they were offering technical support.
Even if
but now they actually want to participate.
The involvement of the United States, one, is an obsession of America to assume that it is the savior of the world. The other is, of course, Museveni positioning himself in order to win favor with the superpower. Remember that these international alliances, many African leaders will seek to exploit these international alliances in order to bolster their own domestic position. And I think Museveni did that, not so much to hunt and get Konyi. Americans can never get Konyi. Americans have been in Afghanistan for how many years now? 12 years. They spend $100 billion per year.
But they finally got Osama bin Laden.
Well, they never got him in Afghanistan, where they were spending $100 million. Did they? They got him in Pakistan.
Yes.
So, and they have never gotten Umar Ahmed. Now, what have the Americans done? Right now, the American government is involved in negotiations with the Taliban to see how they can achieve a peace, whereby the Karzai government and the Taliban form a government of national unity. Bottom line is this.
You do not believe he actually is under pressure from any forces?
I personally believe that there may be pressure, but that pressure is not the solution. And even if they captured Konyi, the Americans have captured Osama bin Laden. Has your security improved at the airport? They killed him. Is that what they said?
Yes.
How come you're still removing your shoes and belt at the airport?
The war against terror continues. The war against terror continues.
So in other words, the killing of Osama bin Laden only had symbolic value. The killing of Konyi can have symbolic value. My personal feeling is this, that as far as possible as Ugandans, there must be a search for a political solution to the problem of northern Uganda. And I don't think that Museveni can afford to run away from it. He may hide here, he may play delaying tactics, but for as long as he's president of this country, there needs to be political rapprochement with northern Uganda, and I hope that it is taking place, and that the resolution of the LRA problem is not an ICC problem, is not an American problem, it should, and it's not even a criminal justice problem.
Yes.
It should primarily be a political problem. Right. How do you search for internal political peace?
Thank you very much, Andrew. Clearly, this is a discussion we'll continue when we get more about this surrender proposal and much more on the LRA. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Newsnight. Well, we'll take a very short break. We return with business after this.